So we have a 5-game NBA slate on Sunday, a little bit smaller slate-wise just because obviously we have NFL games, but still money to be won here on the NBA preseason. Still should be a pretty solid edge with everyone focusing on the NFL. But yeah, before we get into the video, if you guys are new, welcome to the channel. I do cover content for Draftkings Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the sponsor of the video. Make sure to use the code DKDFS for a 100% match up to $100. We've been doing extremely well on the NBA preseason props, but they have a ton of different sports you can offer. They have a ton of different sports that they offer. It is a player prop site. You can pick anywhere from 2 to 5 props and win up to 10 extra money. So if you're a first-time user, use that code, get that free $100. And then, yeah, recapping my lineup here from the other night. So this was my original lineup. I was only entering one lineup. And then I decided, like I always do, to make a last-second pivot because I was a little bit worried about Gabe Vincent being limited. So I pivoted in high stakes to this, did a 2v2 swap. Ja Morant, Darius Days from Gabe Vincent and Siakam. And sure enough, Miami, with only 10 available players, plays Darius Days 5 minutes. Why are you signing him to a two-way contract if you're not going to play him, especially in a game like this where everyone's out? So I swapped off $500 because had I kept this in high stakes, 259.75, would have gotten 5th place here. So as I usually do, make a late swap that ends up costing me a ton of money. But it was still a very good day for a lot of us, a lot of Patreon members. So recapping some stuff. This is from the Showdown. Got 2nd place, won almost $1,000 off 30. You absolutely love to see that. Prize Picks recap from today went 2 for 3. DeAndre Hunter ended up playing a little bit more than the coach said he would. He also shot like 80% from the field, so that was a little bit tilting. But Collins and Carter both very easily went under. And then this was just, again, I was showing recap of the week for Prize Picks. A little 150% ROI there on NBA. It's been a really, really good run. And this was a few of the big wins from the other night. So $42 into over 1,000. Got 2nd place in a field of over 3,000 entries on FanDuel. Let's see. Another 2nd place finish in a $1 GPP. $1 into 200. 6th place in the big tournament. He was sweating the 10K, but that was a $10 entry into 600. And then $200 into over 1,000. So it was a really, really solid night for us. Again, what I was hammering home was I wanted to leave room for a couple of those Miami value guys because they were shorthanded. Vincent smashed. Duncan Robinson smashed. Highwood smashed. And sure enough, gotten random, massive foul trouble to lose huge minutes. And he would have had a much bigger game if we didn't get severely unlucky once again with foul trouble. But yeah, he smashed, Kane smashed, the 2 guards smashed, a couple other guys off the bench smashed. So leaving some spots open for Miami was definitely the move there for value. And yeah, that's the recap of everything. So let's talk about this 5-game slate. We'll start off with Chicago. So Chicago, through the first couple of preseason games, have given the starters pretty solid run, like mid-20s minutes. DeRozan, Vooch, Levine, I think all 3 pretty solid options. I think Vucevic probably the safest, your highest floor. Then DeRozan, then probably Levine, just because he saw the limited minutes in game 1. But the big 3 here for Chicago, I think, are all pretty solid plays. Again, we don't have any real news out right now making this video early on Saturday, but I think those 3 are pretty solid options. Minutes could get bumped up a little bit. Now, Billy Donovan did say he was going to run some small ball in the second half, so you didn't see backup minutes for Drummond there in the second half. He played well on his backup shift in the first half, but that is a little bit concerning. We'll keep an eye on if they do small ball again here. Value-wise, I think Ayo Dosunmu is decent at 3K. Again, he's been the starting point guard. He's not going to be a super high-usage player, but he should get some pretty big minutes. All right, moving on to Toronto. So Toronto, we saw Van Fleet sit out last game. Would assume he's going to be back. You did see Christian Koloko start. He had like 3 blocks in the first 5 minutes. He didn't do much, though, other than those blocks. Siakam, really the guy that I feel the best about. Just the guy with the highest floor salary. Really doesn't matter again in the slate. There's a lot of very underpriced guys. So I think Siakam looks really good. The rest of the Raptors, assuming Van Fleet plays, all kind of secondary plays there with Van Fleet, Barnes, OG, and Gary Trent. Value-wise, do have a little bit interesting guys like Boucher and Achua. The prices have come down on them. Don't expect huge minutes, but probably mid-teens off the bench. Both will be productive, both viable tournament plays. Pelicans and Spurs. So the minutes have not been great for the Pelicans so far. They only played the starters about 20 minutes last game. So we'll keep an eye, see if the minutes do get bumped up. If they do, if we know Zion's going to play like mid to high 20s minutes, then I think he's a good spend up. But if they're going to keep him around 20 minutes, probably going to stay away from Zion. Then, yeah, Ingram and CJ both missed the game last time out. We'll keep an eye on that. JV, I'm going to pass on with Zion there in the front court. Zion is going to really dominate the usage in the front court. Devonta Graham picked up the start, but I don't love the price point on him. Value options, so I do like two guys on the bench. I mentioned them in my last video's tournament plays, and well, sure enough, Alvarado was in the winning lineup. He went for 28 real-life points. Now, that was a little bit of an outlier game, but again, Alvarado is going to be a high-usage player off the bench, and same with Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. Those two I like, again, assuming they kind of cap the limit, the minutes there on the starters. And two other guys that I think are viable if Ingram and CJ are out. Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy. Those guys both picked up the start last game. Would lean to Murphy. I think his ceiling's a bit higher. Najee Marshall's floor probably a bit higher than Murphy. So if you're looking for floor, it's Marshall. If you're looking for ceiling, it's probably Trey Murphy. For the Spurs, we'll keep an eye on a couple pieces of news. Keldon Johnson and Primo could be back in this game. If they are back, definitely going to downgrade the rest of the offense. If they're still out, then it's going to be Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Jakob Poeltl kind of running the show. Trey Jones, the flat min price, that looks pretty appealing. Vassell's been the number one option on offense for the first couple games, so he would look good. But if Keldon's back, that's going to downgrade these guys. So again, we'll keep an eye on that. Bench-wise, not a ton. Again, if Primo plays, you can use him. Collins will be a good point per minute guy coming off the bench. I think he's viable, does have power forward eligibility, but that's probably it. Lakers and Warriors. So the big three all sat last game, but they are expected back in this game. If we get confirmation they're going to play in the second half, I think they're good options. The answer is yes. I'm still on extreme tilt mode from Darvin Ham, costing me thousands of dollars. I have a 10% LeBron the previous slate. Going to get either first or second in high stakes. Darvin Ham said he's playing high 20s minutes. He only plays him the first half. Just a flat out lie. So I'm just so incredibly mad about that. But with the big three, if they all play the same minutes, I'd rank them AD, LeBron, Westbrook. But AD did miss the last game, so we'll keep an eye on that. Or missed the game 2 games ago with injury. He sat out last game due to rest, so we'll monitor the situation there. If all three of the big three play, not a ton of value I like. I think a little bit interested in Nunn, a little bit interested in Reeves. We also could have Schroeder back, so not much for the Laker value, assuming that the big three do play. Golden State, so no Klay Thompson. No Draymond Green's going to be out for a little bit after that video surfaced to the internet. Pretty wild stuff if you ask me, but yeah, the Warriors have kept it easy in the starters for the first couple of games. Would expect the minutes to bump up here. And if that is the case, I think Steph Curry and Jordan Poole look really good. They're going to run the show offensively. They're both going to get a ton of shots up. They're both high-usage players. I like both the Golden State guards a lot. Wiggins, kind of indifferent on him in the mid-range. Don't love him. Don't hate him. I think he's a relatively safe play. Wiseman will come off the bench and should get some solid minutes. He's a really good point per minute guy. He fouled out last slate to bail out the faders. I was also so incredibly bad about that. Once again, I have foul trouble every slate. It's the preseason. We shouldn't even have to worry about it. But literally every single preseason slate, I've had my low-owned player get in random, massive foul trouble. So whoever I play tomorrow, at least one guy is going to get in random foul trouble. DiVincenzo's fine off the bench. Looney feels just too cheap at the flat min price. I don't really understand why he's min price here. No Draymond too. So I like Looney quite a bit for value. And then Kuminga is going to pick up the start here for Draymond. He's a good point per minute guy, but like he hasn't been good lately. It's stemmed from the summer. Like from the summer league, he was really not good. Like his efficiency's not been good. He'll still probably get some rebounds and steals and blocks, but just like real life basketball, like he's been really bad. But I do think that he's a pretty good value at the flat min price. So him and Looney both look good for salary relief. That's probably it for Golden State. Portland and the Kings. So the Portland Trailblazers have been getting the starters pretty solid minutes, like low to mid 20s. Lillard and Nurkic, I think, are both pretty safe. Good matchup here. Assuming they get similar run, I like them both. The other starters in Hart, Grant, Simons, all kind of solid plays. No standouts, but they also should get some decent run. Off the bench, not much. Eubanks will get the backup 5. A little bit interested in him in tournaments. A little bit interested in Justice Winslow as well. He could start. He started the game before. Most likely Josh Hart starts, but we'll keep an eye on that. Sacramento. So they played like everyone on the roster. I think it was like 19, 20 guys. Starters only played the first half. So I assume the minutes are going to bump up, but we'll see. So if the minutes do bump up, we can look to Fox and Sabonis, who should lead the way offensively. Monk off the bench would be a viable play. Herter is going to be the starting 2. He's fine. Keegan Murray does feel a little bit too cheap, again, assuming his minutes bump up a bit. But if they're going to run a similar rotation to last game, I really can't get to anyone. And then Rashawn Holmes is doubtful. Assuming he doesn't play, you probably get Alex Len as the backup 5. I'll mention him in tournaments. It's never, ever, ever, ever a fun roster, but he does have a ceiling. He does. And then finally, Minnesota and the Clippers. And again, I ended up winning a tournament the other day with Rudy Gobert only playing the first half. Had you played the second half, I would have had a decent chance at the $10,000 in the big tournament. So once again, running awful. But Cat probably doesn't play in this game. So they started last game, D'Lo, Edwards, McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Gobert. So if we get confirmation these guys are going to for sure play in the second half, I think the big 3, I guess, Gobert, Edwards, and D'Lo all look pretty good. Naz Reid for value looks great, assuming he starts again. I like the way they ran their rotation the first half. So you had Naz and Gobert both start. Gobert subbed out early and then came back in for Naz. So you didn't see any Nathan Knight in the first half rotation. So that's a positive for both Naz Reid and Gobert if they run that similar rotation. McDaniels, min price, viable, but I think I'd rather go to Naz Reid. It's just better as far as point per minute goes. Slow-mo is playable off the bench. Probably it. And finally, the Clippers, who also spread out the minutes last game. They're a very deep team. I would assume the minutes do go up a bit here too as well. Like starters probably get second half run. If that's the case, you can look to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But the rest of the Clippers, I just have a really hard time making the case for anyone. It's just a really, really deep team. Maybe some John Wall, but like he's 6.8K. Maybe a little bit of Zubac because he's really the only big, but I just have a hard time recommending anyone else on this Clippers team, assuming that, starters do play decent minutes. All right, guys, so that'll wrap it up for the video. Appreciate you guys for watching. Again, if you do enjoy this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next video.